Hello, I'm Dean, and recently our friends George and Jenny asked if we could help with their order of service booklet. Because we did quite a bit of DIY stuff for our wedding, and their wedding's in 4 weeks, so they're kind of running out of time a little bit, and they wanted some help. So I thought I'd video the process, take some photos I'm going along, and it'd be really cool to get your feedback and see what you think. So the first thing I suggested to them was to browse on places like Etsy, just to get an idea of the sort of things that they liked. So they quite like the kind of rustic feel of the brown card with simple black text, maybe a little bit of decoration like the string down the side. This one they particularly liked because their wedding will have a little bit of a kind of Art Deco 1920s kind of style to it, and so this one's got a very unique kind of font and the illustrations in the corner. So once I had a bit of a feel for the sort of style they wanted, the first thing to do was to have a search for a suitable font to use. So I literally just googled Art Deco font, and you'll get plenty of results, and if you go to a website like 1001 Fonts, for example, you'll see there are absolutely tons of really cool fonts, and you can spend hours browsing through these, which I have done. And also you'll notice that some of them are suitable for commercial use. If you hover over the little dollar sign there, it'll tell you it's free for commercial use. And some are okay for personal use. So I figure for a friend's wedding, that's okay for personal use. So the one I found which I really liked was called Reynolds. So you can see here that this is an Art Deco font, and it's got this sort of unique high detail on certain letters like the R, which is quite similar to this detail that they liked on this card. So I thought I'd have a go with that one. And it's literally as simple as downloading it, and then once the file's downloaded, you just double click on the font, it gives you a quick preview, hit install, and off you go. So the next thing I wanted to do was to try and find some of these decorative details above and below the name, and the best place I found for that was another font site called Dafont, so dafont.com. And if you then search for something like vintage signs, you'll see it comes up with quite a few options here for lots of little illustrations. So for example, quite like this one, Vintage Decorative Signs 2. And if you click on that, you can see that each letter represents a different illustration. So in exactly the same way as for the fonts, you just download that. By the way, you can see this is free for personal use. You can download that and install it as a normal font. So the next thing is then to load up your favourite paint package or desktop publishing software. You can pretty much use anything for this, I guess. Anything, even Word. I'm using Photoshop. So I've set up my page as a landscape A4 in this case. So the idea will be that we'll print on an A4 sheet of paper and then fold it to produce the cover. And I've got a line just showing me where the centre is. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get some text. Friends' names are Jenny and George, and I'm going to select my newly downloaded font for this, which is Reynolds. There you go. Already it's looking pretty fine. So I think what I'm going to try is to have a slightly smaller ampersand. And so for the decorative parts, again, just works like a normal font. So you just have to choose the right font, which was the Vintage Decorative Signs 2. And then if you check on the website, Dafont, you can see which key represents which illustration. So I'm going to go with this one, which is a plus symbol. So if I go back into Photoshop, put in a plus, so you get this decorative crown type feature, which I'm going to place just over the ampersand like that. Also put in another one below, which I'm going to flip 180 degrees and put that underneath. It's as simple as that, really. So I'm just going to finish off the rest of it. You could obviously add lots more decorative details around the edges, but I'm just going to leave it at that for now. We're also going to add at the bottom the name of the church and another decorative feature. So this is the finished version. I've changed all the font colour to black and the decorations black. Added the date underneath as well. And also put in the name of the church and the Reverend, and another decorative feature at the bottom. On the back page, on the back cover, I've just put the bride and groom's initials again with the date. So that's what we're going to print out onto our brown card. So I've also got the same sort of design for the internal pages, which will just be printed on white paper. So again, they'll be folded in half to create an A5 sheet. Because there's going to be 8 pages in total, you just have to remember to put them on the right side of the page, so when you fold them over, they're in the right order. Okay, so from Photoshop, I've saved all those pages as PNG files. So you can see here I've got 5 in total, one for the cover and the back, and then the internal pages as well. And so first thing I'm going to do is to print the cover. So you're just going to use the rear feeder on the printer. It's a standard printer, so there's nothing special about it, just using high quality print settings. There we go. I'm just going to print the internal pages onto pretty standard white paper, but again just on high quality setting. If your printer does duplex printing, so it prints on both sides of the paper, then it's a bit of a time saver because it means you don't have to keep taking the paper out and putting it back in to print on the back. Okay, so here's all our printouts. We've got the front cover and back cover, and then the 2 sheets of paper which will be folded to create the 8 internal pages. So I'm going to start by folding this in half. It doesn't really matter what order all this is done, I guess. So I'm going to fold this over and line it up on my cutting board here so I can see where halfway is. And I'm not going to score it, I'm just going to use the ruler as a guide to show me where to bend it. Because depending on how thick your card is, if you score it sometimes it can split, so sometimes it's better not to actually score it, but form it around something instead. So I'm just going to crease it along the edge, but I don't want to get it dirty, so I'm just going to use a sheet of A4 paper to protect it and just run along that fold to create a nice neat fold. Couple of things I've got this pretty cool little corner trimmer. Get a nice neat rounded edge. There we go, so there's our cover with rounded corners. So for the internal pages, I want them to be slightly smaller than the cover, so that first of all they don't stick out past the rounded corners, and just to protect them a little bit so they don't get creased or anything. So I'm just going to trim off about 1/2 centimetre. It does help to have a very sharp knife for this, but please be careful. Trimmed internal pages. You can see it just sits nicely inside. So next thing to do is to fold these pages in half. Okay, so to actually attach the pages together, I'm going to ultimately end up with some string along the spine. But to make sure they definitely stay together, I'm going to put a staple in the centre. For this, you really want to use one of these long arm staplers so you can get right into the middle of the page. And then I'm just going to put a staple in. Okay, there we go, we've got our pages attached. All we really need to do now is put a couple of holes in and then we can feed some string along the spine. For the holes, I'm going to use this slightly larger hole punch, and if you do this upside down you can actually see where the hole is to make sure that you're on the centre. To be honest, it's not ideal because the hole ends up being quite close to the edge of the paper. So just need to feed some string through. Then you're going to use this kind of, it's a bit like a parcel string, I guess. It has a bit of a rustic feel to it. And then just tie a pretty standard knot. And you want to try and get this as tight as you reasonably can, so it's not too loose. Okay, so then just trim off the ends, and then you can sort of pull it round to put the knot in the centre if you want to. There we go. I think that is basically it. So that's our prototype order of service for George and Jenny. Hopefully they will like it. So it's got all the pages they wanted. For the final ones, I think we might find some slightly nicer paper for the inside. There you can see the centre pages with the string. And there we go. So yeah, be interested to know what you think. Thanks for watching.